I want to go ahead and welcome back Carla Araujo to my podcast, Badass Agents Podcast. Okay, just so that we're on the same line. It's my podcast.
I know.
I don't want you. I don't care how popular you are. I'm not giving up control. I'm not giving up control of the reins.
I don't want it anyway.
Welcome to another episode of Mindset Mastery. I'm your host, AZ Araujo. Please check in as you're coming on board. And I am very, very excited and happy to be here. Last week's Mindset Mastery was pure fire. As a matter of fact, I've personally, and I'm not joking here, I've personally listened to it 5 times, including twice today during my run, because it got me so fired up. It got me just in the place I needed to be. And I think that's important for all of us, right? To hear the right things so we can continue to move forward, to be around the right people, to inspire us to take the steps that are necessary to get what we want. And with that being said, I had so many people give me the feedback about, the energy we brought, the energy that Carla brought, and the truth, right? A lot of it could be considered offensive sometimes, right? If we don't take it in the right context, we can say, oh, she's talking to me. She's talking bad about me. She's trying to demean me, when that's never the case, or that's never the goal. The goal is to allow you to see your truths, see your story, the lies that sometimes you're telling yourself in order to achieve what you truly want. And we all want big things. I've personally heard it from you, telling me where you want to go with your family, where you want to go with your body, where you want to go with your business. And with that being said, I got a lot of feedback stating that we should have her back, because there's some additional questions that I'm going to ask. And with that being said, I want to go ahead and welcome back Carla Araujo to my podcast, Badass Agents Podcast. Okay, just so that we're on the same line. It's my podcast.
I know.
I don't want you. I don't care how popular you are. I'm not giving up control. I'm not giving up control of the reins.
I don't want it anyway.
Okay, so we were just getting ready, right, in the studio.
Have it.
And somebody suggested for Carla to raise her seat up. And, Ricky here in our studio, he says, hey, raise your seat up. And I'm like, hey, go ahead and raise up so you can get to my level. And then the crew says, well, that means if that's the case, then Carla should raise it all the way to the top, because you're above my level is what I'm hearing. But Carla, there were so many truth bombs that you did provide us last week. And some of it, just struck a chord. Some of it can be considered. I think if you're outside of AZ and Associates, some people might think that it's offensive, right?
Yeah,
but that's never the case.
And it's not. I speak, and I said in my last, I'm very passionate when I speak, and only because it's through my life experience, through what I go through. And so it's not against you or anyone. It's just, hey, I've been here, done that. It's kind of like when someone comes and tells me a bullshit story, I'm like, yeah, I can't talk to a bullshitter. I've been there and I've overcome that. So my stories are just my life, and either we can relate or you can't. So yeah. That's all it is. And
it is. It takes a bullshitter to know a bullshitter, right? It takes someone that is posturing to know that, hey, I postured myself and I can point you out. And there's so many instances where in life in general, there's certain individuals that trigger me, right? And it's because I see many of my qualities in a certain individual. When they quit too quick, right, or when they have a story that's untrue, right? When they give themselves that false sense of accomplishment, it really triggers me, because that is a story I used to play often in my life, of being that bullshit artist, right? Being that BS artist. And in reality, there's so much more we can provide. But we talked about last week, and there was just so many nuggets about being more focused on being a competitor, right, versus the competition. And there's a big difference there. I am a competitor versus, hey, I'm going to worry about what's going on with the competition. And also the phrase, no one is going to beat me.
Right.
I think that, that phrase alone fired me up today as we were running. I was like, okay, this is the game. And as we're doing these sprints, that's the phrase that's going in my mind over and over and over again. And it's that mindset. But what happens, Carla? And this is a follow-up question. And we're going to dive into this false sense of accomplishment once you answer this question. But what happens when you do get beat? What happens when your mind and the thoughts and the frustrations and the fears and the anxiety do take over and they do beat you? How do you overcome? How do you keep going? Because there's some days where you are going to get beat.
Right. In the beginning, I think many years back, I think it was very hard, only because I've had, and I still do, have my moments of anxiety that some were extreme. I couldn't even get out of the house, and I shut my blinds, or my depression would hit me really, really hard. And those were the days that I just couldn't move. I felt like my body was numb, and I would it would be an extreme. Those are the days that I just felt like no one knows I exist, so it's okay to disappear. So I can move at my level slowly with people watching a little bit, but not going at a fast pace because no one's expecting anything from me anyway. So it would be an easy kind of ride. It would be an easy ride. And so I wasn't giving myself enough credit. I was just kind of like, hey, no one's watching, so no one's really going to know that I'm not doing things. No one's going to know that I'm weakened right now. But the more I started putting myself out there, I think the first video I've ever made years ago was when I was coming out of the gym. I was extremely just fed up and done just with everything. And I made this anxiety video, and I don't even know how many hits, but I have hundreds of phone calls and, texts and emails and messages that were like, holy crap, like anxiety hits you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm part of that world of anxiety and depression. But I think the more I started making it consistent and putting myself out there, and not just videos, but throwing myself out there, when I started competing, I started putting so much of my life out there. I started even in anything I did, from the business to my life, to my marriage, to my kids, to the projects I started. The more I started putting myself out there in the light, I felt like, I don't know, I felt like so many people were holding me accountable.
Yeah.
And so I had to, the times that I didn't feel like going out there, and doing it, it was like, I have to show up in all areas of my life, because there's so many moving parts in our lives. It's not just business, but it's health. It's all kinds of things in our lives. There's so many moving parts. So it's like, if one thing fails, if you're not continuously moving, other parts of your life are going to fail. So some of us just focus just on business. If something happens in our life so tragic, we focus just on that, and everything else is going to start to fall apart. So then we go back, and a year or two go by, and we're like, what happened? It's like, what happened? You neglected that other part of your life, and there's so many moving parts in our lives. So what holds me accountable is putting myself out there constantly. And it doesn't mean this is meant for you, but again, this is just my life story, and that's what I do.
Yeah. So do you think people avoid putting themselves out there because it's going to be a standard that people are going to hold them up to?
Right. People avoid putting themselves out there because it's first and foremost, it's uncomfortable. It's extremely uncomfortable. So if you're comfortable in talking about your business, that's what you're going to do. You're going to be really good at that. If you're uncomfortable talking about your personal life, you're not going to do that. If you're uncomfortable talking about because you're insecure about your health, you're not going to do that. So it really depends on what you're really confident in. You're going to do just that and post just that.
So people avoid what they're uncomfortable with. So if they're uncomfortable with their weight and they want to do something about their weight, they'd rather avoid it so they don't they're not held accountable. If they're uncomfortable with their business, they avoid talking about business.
And one of the reasons why I put my life out there on my anxiety and my depression and my marriage and my business and my failures and all these things is because, well, I can't just work on one part of my life. It has to be all areas of my life. Because again, our lives they have so many moving parts, and it's like, the more I put myself out there, one, there's nothing to hide. I can't be ashamed of anything. And so I can't be embarrassed of anything. So I might as well just go all out and be confident about going all out and powerfully. So I have to show up every day, and that is my accountability. And so every single day, it's kind of like I am against I'm the competition, and no one's going to beat me. So that's just my mindset. I just wired myself.
But I liked how we use it with both. We use the social media avenues as a way to hold ourselves accountable.
Right.
Because what I see often is these once in a blue moon posters or once in the moon balloon value creators, right, which is creating value to the marketplace, is they make these big announcements, right, every once in a while. And they get all this type of feedback of like, way to go. That's awesome. I'm so happy you're about to lose 30, 40 pounds, or you're going to sign up for this Ironman, right? Or you're going to start training with Carla. You signed up for this coaching program. Congratulations. That's awesome. And, there's a problem with that. I think there's a problem with that if we just announce our big goals overall, but don't hold ourselves accountable by measuring, all right, or taking the appropriate actions every single day to lead up to that goal.
Right.
Is our brain is tricked into thinking that we've accomplished it, because when we get all these compliments, right, when people are fired up for us and they say way to go, and we get this great feedback of awesomeness of how cool you are, it literally makes your brain believe that you've accomplished that goal.
Right.
So now you're less likely to actually achieve it, right? And what ends up happening is it fades, or it gives you less likelihood to be able to achieve that goal in the future. And what you're doing and what you're saying is, hey, listen, have those big goals, have those big ambitions, but it's what you do every single day.
Right.
And the way to hold yourself accountable is to back that goal with the action.
Right. You know, there was a one time, and I have this story, and it was along the line. There's this story, and I've said this many times, because again, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. You know, and I don't believe I'm a bullshitter at this time that I'm going to tell this story, because I've already wired myself to continue going, and nothing's going to stop me, because I just pictured this big goal and it was going to happen no matter what. When I was going for my FBB Pro card, there was a time we have a portfolio of rentals, and so we own properties. And I manage them all, and there was one property that I picked up a month before I was going to, or 3 months time frame before I was going out to New York to one of my shows. And my admin forgot to insure the home. And I was getting off the subway in New York. We're packing up or walking out, and I get a phone call from my admin. She's like, hey, the house came down, like literally flooded. I have to call a restoration company. I have to call the insurance company. And so I'm like, okay, well, do your thing, but I'm going on stage in a couple hours and I can't talk. Can't let you stress me out. Gotta go. Let the house burn down, give a shit. And then so she's like, okay. So because my main goal was the pro card. I'm in there in New York. I hustled for 6 months. Nothing's going to take that away from me.
Love that.
And so there's so many moving parts in your life, and I stayed focused. And I already knew, I jumped way ahead of like kind of the future. I already knew whatever happens at the show, when I come back, may I win or not, I want to keep moving forward. So I have to continue putting myself out there. So I immediately texted my coach and said, hey, whatever happens today, tomorrow, the next show, whatever, let's prep for the next one. Because I already knew coming back was going to be a pain in the ass, that I had to take a hold of the responsibility of this rental. Everything was going to go down. But again, there's so many moving parts in our lives. It's kind of like my goal was that one goal, to continue my fitness journey.
Yeah, there is moving parts. There's personal.
Right.
There's things that come up. There's obstacles. There's problems.
Right. And our business wasn't doing too well at that time. There were so many things going on. I'm like, nothing's going to stop me. Somehow things will work out. Somehow everything always works out.
If you keep going.
If you keep going.
Yes.
It always works out. So then she calls me about 45 minutes later, and she's like, hey, bad news. And the house wasn't insured. And I was like, what? All right, why do I want to be bothered with this? Screw it. So somehow things always work out. So I went to the show. I think I got 8th, 9th place, get off, come home, deal with the rental. Somehow it always worked out. Yeah. And it got fixed, it worked out. But I could only imagine if my mind at the first phone call that she said the house got flooded, would it just stayed there? And I was like, well, can't do anything about that now. You're in Phoenix, I'm in New York, gotta go. We don't have insurance. Well, can't do anything about it even now. So your mind, I'm wired to just continue going. So, but the thing is that if we stop just there, that's exactly what we do. It's just stop. Okay, wow, we got here. We're this good. Shit's happening, so I'm going to push back a little bit. But I'm a winner already. It's like, no, you haven't won shit. Nothing. So I never feel like a winner. I'm always, like I said that in the last one, it's like every single day I'm always competing against myself. It's me. No one's going to beat me. And that was my mindset in New York. No one's going to beat me. And the only way someone's going to beat me is by me crying right now that the house is not insured and it's flooded. And so that's the only way someone's going to beat me. But it's like, no, somehow it always works out. And it did. It did. And I'm glad that in that moment, within that hour, my coach is like, you're not even done with this show. You want to prepare for the next one? Yep, because I want to make sure we're on point. Why? I called myself out. I put myself out there because there was no way I was going to call and say, don't want to do it anymore. From that, New York, I think it went to Chicago. So it was like, bam, 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 because somehow everything always works out.
Always works out when you don't stop, when you keep going. And I love the fact it's you don't lose focus on the ultimate goal, because you could have been satisfied with the fact of saying, hey, like I announced I was going to compete. I competed. I'm done. I got all these compliments. I got this you're so awesome, feedback. I got all these great things, but now these problems at home, I better stop because now I need to focus on all these problems that are going on at home.
Right.
And what ends up happening is we ultimately give up on the main goal. Your main goal was to get your IFBB Pro card.
But I couldn't lose focus on
You couldn't lose
work,
focus.
my marriage, my kids. I couldn't lose focus on it. But the focus was the Pro card. There's so many moving parts in our lives. It's like your focus. What is your focus? Okay, stay focused on that. But you can't be oblivious to what is going on around you, but you also can't let it stress you out. So there has to be a balance of that, right? but you still can't lose that focus.
The focus. And again, sometimes that focus is lost when we get those compliments and say, okay, I already got what I needed from this. Even though we didn't achieve what we wanted, I got enough. Now I have to focus on the things that my mind is telling me I should be working on. Because your mind could have easily led like, I can't compete anymore because now I have a problem with my house. It's not insured. We owe tens of thousands of dollars to get it fixed. Then, then I have to get it rented and I have to do all these other things. So now you're busy doing these things that are no longer in alignment with your goal. So I wrote down something here, okay, that kind of goes along this whole thought process, okay? So again, it goes with having the ultimate goal. We announce it. I'm doing this triathlon. I'm doing this Ironman. Okay, and it's funny because I was noticing this when I announced that I was doing an Ironman. I noticed other people within my not my immediate realm, not the people that I'm training with, but other people also announcing, hey, I'm doing this Ironman. I'm doing this, that, and I noticed a process that happened, and I got that too. I got a lot of congratulations. Right, I haven't done shit. All I simply said was, I am going to compete in a Ironman. Congratulations, that's a great achievement. That's going to be so awesome. So my mind is getting fed with this false sense of accomplishment already. The dopamine in my brain is feeding my body. I'm energized, I'm feeling good and everything else, right? So that's what happens. So when you post things, you get a lot of good jobs, a way to go, you're killing it. Then it starts to fade. And then what ends up happening, your motivation starts to fade. And the dopamine is gone. No longer are we receiving those feedbacks, and our mind is now believing, well, we already accomplished it. Let's go do something else. But then you start doing things like this. You convince yourself you can do it on your own. Okay? So some people, like, I chose to train with a group because I know they're going to hold me accountable. But some are like, well, I can do this on my own. Then there's, you start to convince yourself that you can hold yourself accountable. You know what to do. And then the vision slowly starts to fade, right? The excuses begin. It's too early. That's where it starts, right? I'm not spending enough time with my family. I think that is the biggest, like, we have this hero complex about us, Carla. Like, my family, I got to do this for my family. I'm not spending enough time, so I can't train. I can't do this. I can't do that because, and even for you, right? I can't compete because I'm not spending enough time with my family. That's a lie. You can do all things. Then it's too much money. Right? How many people are convinced that they can't move forward, right, with certain things because it's too much money? So they start to buy into that thought. Oh, you know what? I really can't train anymore. I tried doing this, but my business needs focus. So we start making up other thoughts and lies about why we can't achieve our ultimate goal. My body needs rest. How often is that, right? When you hire a personal trainer, it's like, oh, it's all good for the first 6 weeks when people are complimenting you to have a personal trainer, but then the work behind the scenes still keeps going, but then we start making those excuses. My body needs rest. And then what happens? You start to train later and later. You start to sleep in, later and later. You miss a few times. You stop going altogether. You gain weight, but it's only 5 pounds. Hey, I'm good. I haven't been going to my trainer, but then it gets to a point where it doesn't. You can't stop gaining weight. So you lose yourself, and unfortunately, you lose your confidence. And this for all aspects. And ultimately, you retract to your lowest form of habit. So we've seen this with our own personal programs, Carla. You've done this with your 12-week targets, where individuals are so hyped up, all right, about achieving this goal. They announce it. They put pictures every day. That they're doing these things. And then slowly but surely, all the compliments start coming down, right? All the awesomeness start coming down. And then they go through this thought process. I can do this on my own. I don't need this anymore. I can hold myself accountable. Then they slowly start hiding, and then they go back to the lowest form of habit. I've also had this with my own coaching programs. Same thing. Did I just spit on you? I'm sorry. No. It's a good thing we have about 4 feet here.
I think we're married. I think we're good.
we're swapping spit all the time. Yeah. That's so good. But another thing is like, people are like, oh, hey, AZ, I got enough of what I needed to hear from you, right? I want to learn something different. So I'm going to go move here. I'm going to go do that. And then slowly but surely, they start going through this thought process. I can do this on my own. I hold myself accountable. And we all can do it. But what I'm saying is the accountability aspect and not getting that false sense of accomplishment that you already achieved something. When the ultimate goal for me is to pass that finish line at the Ironman. It's not all this everyday thing that I'm posting. The everyday thing that I'm posting is to support that ultimate goal. But I think a lot of us are too used to just announcing our goals, announcing what we want to do, that we get that false sense of accomplishment because of all the compliments.
Right.
And then the vision fades. It all fades.
It's kind of like when I was going through like the national level of competing. You know, I went 3, 4 years, almost 5 years, somewhat. And I remember even just going backstage, everyone knew my name. You know, photographers, I'll just be walking by and like snapping photos, and I already knew how to pose. Like, can't catch me off guard.
You love that whole social aspect of it.
Man, it was a beautiful scene because it was just like, Carla, and I would just turn around and like smile, and it was just crazy because I was so accustomed to it. I already knew how every show was going to be. But I just remember at one point just getting by the wall and just being like, I'm lonely. I'm my only competition. I'm going against all these girls. I don't have anyone with me telling me who, you know, because after a couple of years, the audience was dying down. The people on the outside were like, oh, this is Carla's life. Yeah. She's just going to keep going. And the first year was like, so awesome, you know, and I got gifts, and it was just a wonderful thing. After 2 years, it just started dying down. No one knew I existed, only my crew of like, of course, there's thousands of us out there in the fitness level that were like, oh, man, Carla, you're killing it. But, you know, the normal people that I would run into would be like, oh, this is just Carla's life. So you don't get that anymore.
You don't?
No. So at that time, I was like, well, I need to be part of something big. So I ended up coaching with my coach, and I'm still with the coach to this day. He'll always be my coach, but he's the best of the best in the world. And so, but at the end of the day, when he was like, yeah, I'll take you on. One simple email you sent him, and it was like, yeah, let me meet with her. So at that time, I had to start from scratch all over again because he's like, I need all the judges to know you. So I'm like, damn, here I go again for a good 2-year run before I became that pro. But what was nice about it is when I became the pro, I got off stage, he looks over at me, he's like, now you're one of us, you're top notch, the best of the best. And I just overwhelmed with anxiety, was like, wait a minute, I have to keep going? Well, now you're the best of the best if you wanted to get to the Olympia. And then that's when I shut down. And I was like, this is a lot for me. So at the end of the day, it was like the hype was good.
The hype was good.
Yeah, it was all fine.
Feels good.
It feels good.
And it reminds me because...
But I started dying down because I was like, wait a minute, this isn't fun anymore. Now it's become almost a job that's like, it's painful. It's hurtful. Like it just started dying down. So I started realizing that I started pushing back on my post. I wasn't posting as much. I was because I was like, well, if I'm going to Olympia, I'm just going to kind of start pushing back. I don't want people to know I exist. So it was a depressing game after a while. Mentally and physically, it started bringing me down. Because it's fun when you're up there and you're getting all this hype.
But when people get used to it, like when you start operating at this level, right? Your family's gonna get used to it. We don't get those compliments as often as we're used to, right? When you're used to not doing much and all of a sudden you're doing something, it's like, oh, wow, that's so great. You know, you start losing 10, 15, 20 pounds. Oh, awesome, good for you. I mean, and then at some point, it's not as exciting losing the 20 to 25 or 25 to 30. It's not so exciting, right? So it takes the ultimate goal to pull you forward because through compliments alone, we're not going to get there. And it gets me thinking. I think that's the same reason I used to sabotage my business, be in the gutter, and then work really hard to get us back out of it. All right? Because I wanted to feel like a hero. I wanted to feel like I was accomplishing something great. And if we start thinking about that whole methodology, I think that's why people continue to lose the same 20 to 25, 30, whatever pounds they used to losing over and over and over again because they know how to get there. They get the initial, I'm going to lose some weight. They get to where they feel comfortable, 20 pounds. They get a lot of accolades. They feel a sense of accomplishment, and then they gain the weight back up. And then they make the announcement again, and it's this cycle that happens every year.
So that
New Year's resolutions.
And that's what I was going to go through. So when I started becoming repetitive on this, and I'm like, wait a minute, this Olympia thing's just going to go back to square one. Yeah, I'm going to have to put in 10 times more work because I need more muscle, I need more this. So. But that wasn't, the ultimate was like, I'm doing this to go out and really kill it on my own and try to do something big. But in order for me to do that, the hype's going to come down. And it did. So I started creating my own fitness stuff. I started creating my own journey in the simplicity of coming up with my own tank tops, my own fitness journals. So it started slow. And then I was like, the more I put myself out there, the more I'm going to be in the line of fire that I'm going to have to keep running. And so I did that. So
because what happens when you stop doing it? people will ask you, "Oh, what happened?
What
Like,
happened?
what
Yeah.
happened to you?"
So in order for myself to be held accountable, I'm like, I need to put myself out there. So I just started, like I said, I started creating my tank tops. I started creating my journal. Now I got my app. Now I got my fitness. Now I started DTW Women. I started my events. I started my 2D events. And I'm just like, I can't stop. I can't stop because it feels too good. I love the stage. I love the lights. It's not the attention. I love the fact that people are reaching out and like, you made me change my mind. I see life differently. I'm losing all this weight. And I'm like, they're holding me accountable. I got to keep going.
Love it.
But the hype started dying down. So I'm like,
So you had to create more.
I had to create more out of it. So the more I started creating, I had to put myself out there. I just kept going. I kept going. And that fitness part of it only helped me grow in my business. Because then my mind was clear. I felt confident. I felt powerful. I came back to my business and I was like, AZ, move over. I'm taking over. So I was just like, bam, I blew up there. And then my relationship with my kids were just developing on their own because not only was I talking to them to do the right things, they were just watching me. And next thing you know, they're writing their own little journals. They're out in the fitness, they're out in the gym and they're doing all these things. So I'm like, not my voice eventually, like I said this before in many of my posts, your voice eventually becomes like nothing. It's just like an echo. It's like whatever. It's your actions that your kids watch. So my kids were watching me. So this whole entire time, I thought, I'm not spending enough time with my kids. I was spending more than enough time with my kids because they were watching their mom nonstop. They were running at my speed. So the more I started putting myself out there, the more I started creating content, the more I kept going and it seems so small to some people. But if you're in the fitness world, holy smokes, man, getting an IFBB Pro card is not an easy game. It is from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed for 6-7 years. It was my life. But that bled into my business and my marriage and my kids in such a positive way.
But I love what you just mentioned, and I'm going to go ahead and recap this. It's like you have to continue to present challenges to yourself and not be sucked in by the false sense of accomplishment of all these compliments that we got.
No, because there's so many moving parts in our lives, and everything's going to pull you back.
Yeah.
Everything.
So now it's like you post and you put yourself out there and you continue to do it as a means of that. This is how I operate, period. Right. And from that, as opposed to retracting because you didn't ultimately do the Ironman, because it didn't ultimately lose the 40 pounds or whatever it is, and then come up with another goal. It's like, no. You keep towards that same goal, but you now document it and show that accountability. Period. It's who you are, period. And that allows you now to see bigger challenges and see bigger things for yourself.
Yeah. And Easy, we can go on so many stories and so many, like I said, I'll use that word again, so many moving parts in our lives. And to get to this point where you and I are and at this level, it's extremely hard because I don't think people realize the challenges that we've taken on. There's days that you and I don't talk in our marriage because we're just at each other's throat. There's days I miss, my mother's birthday. There's so many things that I've missed being, when my dad was sick. I could have sent my goodbyes on a deeper level when he was still alive. There's so many things. I was out in, I think, Canada at the time. There's so many things that I've had, but I had to stay focused on my goal because somehow everything was going to happen no matter what, if I was here or not. Yeah. Emotions were going to be out the window. My family's going to be up and down. Our marriage is going to be up and down. Everything was going to happen anyway. So I had to stay focused on the ultimate goal, and hopefully the people who supported me are still there. And the ones who supported me they are here. And my brother, my mom, my dad to his last breath, and you have it recorded, continue living your life because life must go on. So I don't think I've ever gone to one single funeral. I don't think I've ever, and again, that's just me. This is just me because I didn't ever want to look back and I regret this. It's like, no, this is just the way I run. And some people might find it cold and cold-hearted, but this is the way I run. I've wired myself to know what I want and I'm going to go get it. And I'm not unhappy. I can't sit there and say, oh, I wish I was there for, I wish I can't because I love my life and I loved every step I took and every sacrifice that I took. You and I were very close to a divorce and I would have been okay with that too. But as long as I've met my goal and I was happy doing it. But again, those moving parts, man, if you let it pull you apart and not stay focused on what needs to be done, you will never get to that point. And you'll always ask yourself, why? It's like, you know why. Start looking at yourself and be honest with yourself. You're being pulled by all these moving parts because you don't want to move forward on your ultimate goal. So all these parts are pulling you apart. Well, I don't have time for my kids. Well, my back hurts. I can't do this. Well, my marriage is falling apart. I'm like, You can't talk to a bullshitter. I remember the first year I competed with a broken toe. No one even knew I had a broken toe. I don't think I even told anyone because I didn't want to hear the pity party. It was like, leave me alone. And then I'll tell you my story after my broken toe is recovered and I come back. And I'm telling you, I worked out for about 6 weeks on stage with a broken toe, no toenail. And it was like, you got a what hurting you? It's kind of, you can't really, all these moving parts. And again, this is just me. And so I can't talk to someone and pat you on the back and say, oh, poor baby, because that's just not who I am. Go find someone who's going to do that, not me, because I didn't do that to myself. So I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not. I don't even do that with my kids. I'm not going to do it to you. So I'm very loving. Don't take me wrong. I'm very passionate. I'm very compassionate. I'm very patient. I'm all those things. I'm a woman. I have all kinds of feelings. But at the end of the day, it's like I can look in your eyes and say, you're bullshitting. You're bullshitting. Start telling yourself the truth. Either you're lazy, all these moving parts are pulling you apart because you don't want to show up to what you need to do.
Damn. Pure fire right there. Pure fire. And I love that. So many moving parts are pulling you apart. And when you're pulled apart, you can't go anywhere. But the problem is we have full control of where we allow those right. moving parts to take us. Right. We can tell it, okay, we got to go down this path, or we can allow it to take us in different directions. And come up with all these excuses.
Right.
And when you say you can't bullshit, you used to tell those stories to yourself. And that's why you're able to call other people out with their BS stories of why they can't, of why they won't, or why they'll never get there. And you realize that they can if they start focusing on what they ultimately want.
Right.
Guys, that was a pure fire right there. You're probably going to have to play the last 5 minutes there over and over again to really get the gist of that. But let's go ahead and get this monitor closer to me so I can read what's going on. Carla, I want to tell you that this is pure fire. Anything you want to add to that? Any?
No, I don't.
I think you do. I
do.
Is there a way for you to pull this over? I can't see that far.
You know, I kind of.
If you need to get in front of the camera to pull it over, I'm okay with that.
I have this.
Go ahead.
I have
right
this.
Yeah.
I have this thing. You know, if you guys ever felt like some of you have gone to some of you who are athletes, or you don't even have to be an athlete to feel this feeling, but you know that adrenaline, the dopamine, that rush that you feel, and you're on the treadmill, and some of you are heavier, some of you are lighter, so whatever you feel hit is to you. Hit can mean at different levels to many people, just depending on the level you're at.
Intensity interval training, something like that, right?
So, but just really depends, you know. People heavier can still be doing hit as people lighter, right? It just depends on the faster speed. It's like going really fast and then stopping for, 30 seconds and then going really fast at 30 seconds, right? And then when you get off after, your 20-second hit, you have like this, you're sweating and this adrenaline, like, wow, this feels good. Anything's, I can do this. That's how life should feel to you day in and day out when you're doing things. But most of the time when you get off that treadmill, you can do two things. Your mind can go like, this was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Man, this is hard. And then you can stay there to know you have to do it again. Or you can get off that treadmill and be like, man, this is the best feeling in the world. I want to vomit. I couldn't believe I got this shit done. It feels good, and you stay there. And then you keep going, and you keep going, and you become better and better and better and better. So you're going to go one or the other. I chose, it feels good. I want to go there. It feels bad. I want more. I want more. I want more of it. And that's how I am today. I want more. I want more. It feels good. And the other couple of nights ago, I was so angry at whatever. It's not here nor there. It doesn't matter. But I went outside and I flipped an 80-pound tire. And I got to tell you, my goal was like 30 reps. I lost count. I was at 60, 70, 80. I was like, I got to go inside. I've been out here for 2 hours flipping a tire. I'm at like 100 reps because it felt too good to stop. The anger turned into passion and turned into adrenaline. The dopamine was there. I was like, I can't stop. As a matter of fact, I got 2 hours. I got to stop.
And I'm not going to say that I was cause of that anger or not, but it's such a great point what you're making there. It's like you can choose to look at that pain as something that feels good versus something that beats you down.
Right. And all these moving parts and problems in our lives, they feel amazing. I couldn't believe I came back and I was like, I handled a flooded home. I handled fighting with AZ coming off New York because we got in a huge argument because the house wasn't insured. It all worked out. I ended up getting 6th or 7th place. to only prep myself for another one. I had like a day off to get ready to get out to Chicago. And I was like, man, I'm a beast. I'm a beast. And I'm going to do it all over again. But I didn't let these moving parts belittle me or bring me down in my own mind. I was like, no one's going to beat me today. And I kept going. And I wired myself over year after year after year after year to understand that shit's going to happen. But somehow it always works out. Always works out. But things get worse. It would have been really bad if I would have said, hey, we got to head back, get back on the train and let's head back home. House is flooded. Things would have been really bad. I wouldn't be in the position I am today. So when things are bad now, they get really bad. When you think things are bad now, if you stop focusing and being selfish to feel empowered so you can do more and more and more of that, more things that you want to do. And it sucks being there, let me tell you, sucks.
Dude, knowing that you left something on the table, that's demoralizing. Let's go ahead and go all the way down. Thank you for everyone who's showing up. Let's read some of the comments. Good morning to everyone. Madeline, hi Carla, great to see your lovely face again. She's part of your 12-week target group. Jermaine, God is good, absolutely. The accountability aspect is what I think I struggle with most because I can do a lot on my own, but certain aspects of my life, you miss what you're supposed to be doing, and the accountability puts everything in line. So true. We were just talking about that. Claudia, Guerrero all the time. Patrick, Carla, you didn't let any of those personal distractions get in your way, and that was huge. One with the house. That was a huge one with the house. Way to stay focused. That just comes to show that we can create our own downfall when we lose focus. Self-sabotage.
Exactly what it is.
And you said something very interesting. You said, you know why.
Yep.
You know why. Quit saying you don't know why you're broke. Quit saying you don't know why you can't lose weight. You don't know why your marriage is broken. Like, I knew why the entire time, but I wanted to blame it on you.
Or you know why you can't pick up that camera and start making some selfie videos. You know why. You know why. You know more of yourself than anyone.
The drive and inspiration is awesome. Love you guys so much. Thank you, Cindy. But it is all worth it. I think everyone will find their level and sacrifices differently. Just stay in joy and love, in my opinion. Awesome. Felipe, admiration and respect for the both of you. That's real, Carla. Great stuff. Edgar, power couple right there. Thank you. Appreciate it, brother. Love this. You are so right. You can't make excuses for yourself ever, and just keep moving forward with intention. And this is something we can be reminded of on a constant basis, but we have to. You got more? It's not showing up. We got another one here. Bonnie, this is what it's all about. You have already gone through all of this, so you already know what works and what doesn't. This is what most of us are asking advice on. We want to know what works and how to keep moving forward. You are doing just that. You are giving us the raw truth. I thank you for that.
Bonnie, I like that. And, you know, something that I'm going to tell you, Bonnie, is that no one can tell you what to do and how to do it. Only you. We can give our life experience and our stories just like I am now in the fire. I can't tell you, hey, do X, Y, and Z. I can only tell you my life. And for me to tell you, you need to go within yourself to find out what is stopping you from getting to that next step. And the only way to do that is to really sit and start being honest with yourself. And it's so simple when I tell people to do certain things and you know, be consistent a whole week and making a live video on health, body, personal, all these things, right? And you're only confident to do one. It's like, why not the other two? You need to really start digging deep to finding out what works and what doesn't for you. Why do you feel the lack of confidence to do on business, but yet not health? On your relationships, but yet not, you know, so it's really what you want out of all this that you're doing in life, or what you want, what your purpose is. But at the end of the day, it's like trial and error almost. Like, who are you? And that's one of the questions I always ask people, like, who are you? Do you really, really deeply know who you are to move forward on what you want? And it's hard. It's hard. You can hire these coaches and these psychiatrists and all these people to tell you, hey, let's help you with your life. And it's like, unless you're actually come to the forefront of being honest with yourself, is anyone going to be able to bring all that to the surface? That was
the biggest game changer for me, was that raw honesty, right? Because I started to believe all these lies that were true, that, you know, these lies are now true, which they weren't. And when I started breaking back or peeling back the layers, I realized my entire life was just a facade. It was just, one big lie. And working on that and realizing that I am insecure about certain things, but now I'm working on it. Right. Like one of the biggest things that I didn't want to grow the brokerage because I knew I would have to be in front of people. I would have to teach something. I would have to learn, which means now I have to become better. And I was comfortable being who I was. Right. And I wasn't so comfortable being someone greater. And slowly but surely, I've gained that confidence. I trust my voice. I trust my actions. I appreciate my experiences. And it makes me now be able to convey a message powerfully for that reason.
And there, it's all trial and error. Your messages from the beginning to now are extremely powerful. In the beginning, you were like, what do I want to come across saying? Yeah. And some of this stuff doesn't make sense.
I was copying other people because, giving this box training because I thought that's what the marketplace needed. Right. Box training is not what's needed. It's the real and the raw. It's dealing with the real emotions, dealing with the real problems us as human beings have on a daily basis. We're small business owners. We're not robots. Right. We have to deal with all these moving parts. Right. And how to be able to put them back together to go down one path is a challenge. And oftentimes I was in that place where I was getting picked apart by all these moving parts. Yeah. And now I formed this Ferrari out of it, right? I took this part and that part, put the wheels on, put the motor in, and now I'm just going down one path. Right. But it takes to be able to realize where are you falling short and why aren't you confident enough to be able to do certain things. Right. I face that. And Carla, I'll tell you that, like both of us, I've even witnessed with you, your message has gone so much more powerful because you've appreciated where you were. You're seeing where you're at now, and you have a goal in mind for the future.
And I wanted to bring this up. You have to come back to the same place over and over and over again. Sometimes I'll get, and I'm sure you get this, AZ, where some women come back and they're like, hey, I need to go back into your program because the first 2 times I wasn't fully there. I wasn't honest. I wasn't listening. I wasn't giving you the message I needed. I wasn't, really listening into. And I'm sure you get this. And so it's constantly going back almost. To really get to know who you are. It's trial and error to being kind of like getting better at what you really want to do. And that's kind of where we were at, where we would talk a lot about our business and our personal life, but you got to be honest, we weren't really honest. We were still kind of, a couple of years back, we were still kind of wondering, like, I don't want people to judge us, so don't say this, don't say that. And now we'll do these podcasts, like, we just start talking.
We'll just start talking.
Yeah, but we didn't know how to get to that point. It was the consistency. We just had to do it over and over and over.
We build that confidence and we build that shield. We build that armor so that if we do get ridiculed, which we do, if we do get opinions coming our way that are not so positive, we know how to move forward. We don't get picked apart again by the moving parts. No. So guys, start thinking about what it is that you're holding back on. And if you're in business, it might have to do with marketing. It might have to do with your ability to be confident in allowing your and directing your clients to make a decision. It might be your assertiveness. You may be losing one of these elements that now you have to proclaim who you are and what you want to do. And I'm going to say that, do that powerfully and start just putting those deposits in by showcasing who you are, right? Showcasing who you are and what you're about and what your beliefs are. Do it for yourself, not necessarily for the likes, but do it for yourself. This will build the confidence, get you out of your comfort zone, and allow you to build something great. Align your actions now with what you truly want. Mitigate all those moving parts that are around you and use that to your benefit to build the Ferrari or build the vehicle that's going to take you and move you forward. Carla, I want to thank you again for joining me for another episode of Mindset Mastery. I'm not going to bring you back so many times because you're going to want to take over this as well. This is mine.
No.
This is mine.
I'm only coming on when you invite me.
Okay, good.
Don't worry.
All right, guys. Thanks again for participating. I really appreciate your time that you spent with us, and hopefully something today, gave you that confidence to be able to move forward powerfully. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye now.